Well, that's it, because 90% of it doesn't work that well, but if you give it your all, they don't care in a way. It's,
Yeah, you kind of sell your personality half
it's
the time.
yeah, it's the Johnny Carson method.
Greetings, everyone. Come on in and have a seat up front for the Funny Muscle Podcast. If you're here, then you're looking to learn how to create laughs like a pro. So please help me welcome to the stage your co-host to help you do that, economics professor and open micer Chris Stifler and comedian turned author Mike Lucas.
I like the movies, right? And the lights come down in the movie and it gets real dark in the movies. And then on the screen it says, please turn off your cell phone. And my wife panics and goes, oh no, it's in the car.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Tassell.
Hello, Chris.
So let's properly introduce you, Brad.
Oh God, yeah.
We are glad to have you on the show. This is a guy, I was trying to remember how I met you first. I think it was on a creative gig where we were either both middling, different rooms, and we crossed paths. I can't remember how.
That's 30 years ago.
Yeah, but we're so happy to have you on the show here. Brad Tassell, we want to grill you for your knowledge. You've been in the business for over 30 years. And
37.
Jesus, almost 4 decades. You know who we talked to Dwayne Kennedy, if you know Dwayne, and he's been in about the business about the same number of years. And you guys that have been in it through the boom, you've been in it through the post boom, through the prepubescent boom, and then through the new boom.
The end. And the
And
end.
the end. Yeah, remember the end. The end was near.
We're on an odd renaissance though right now.
I think we are, don't you think? Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What's your current assessment of the state of comedy, just in a general sense?
Good for us that do cruises. There is no road. There is no. It's hard to find, because cruises are a thing where you have to have. I've got 2.5 hours worth of stuff. I've got at least 5 different 30-minute shows. Whatever you need, I got. Problem is, we ain't making that anymore because there's no road. We've got 15-year open micers with still only 20 minutes. I went full-time November 14th of 87. And I opened mic for less than a year, hardly. And I was on the road full-time.
That's the boom, man. That was the boom.
But
you're a prolific writer. You really like to write.
Yeah. Kind of. But not so, okay. But it wasn't even that. It was back then, I was getting a ton of stage time. I got my 10,000 hours in doing 6 nights a week for 15 years.
Where were you based out of?
I was in college when I started open micing. It's a lovely story. In the end of 86. And I've got a book about this, folks, called Hell Gig. Go get it at Amazon. Matter of fact, I wrote the comedy books. That pisses me off now because back in the 90s, I was the only comedian writing books, and now every son of a bitch is writing a book. So so go get it, Hell Gig, Enlightening the Road Comic.
Oh, yes, definitely check that out.
In the spring of 86, there was a comedy contest at my university, Indiana University, and it was just a bunch of drunken frat garbage, and I was one of the few doing stand-up. Everybody else was doing poems. And like a lot of people's first story, I think we might have talked about this, I actually did well. And then my next show was that next fall. I kind of won, and I got to open for Leno, and I died in front of 5,000 people because it was my second show. But that day, because I was also in Macbeth on the other side of the stage, I quit theater, my degree, and I just had that was October. I graduated that May, and I said, that's it. Starting in October, screw it. I just drove to Indy 2-3 times a week at night just to do stand-up.
Wow.
So by the time I even stopped college and I got a job at the comedy club as the light and sound guy, which you could do back then, I'd already been paid a little, and I was already had a good 15-20 minutes of stuff. And then come fall, I had Steve Harvey. I don't know if you ever heard of him. But
Steve Harvey?
Yeah, Steve Harvey.
Yeah, I've heard the name. I think he's been doing okay for himself.
Yeah, he's okay. I don't know. I think he's broke. But Steve Harvey came through that 4th of July in 87, and he came to the open mic. and he came up to me at a party. We had a 4th of July party because he was featuring, by the way. He came up to me. He came
Imagine
up to me and he
following
said,
him. Jesus.
I know. I can't remember who the headliner. Oh no, it was Fred Greenlee, and he did great.
Oh, Fred, of course. Fred
So
could
Fred
Fred
was
could follow
amazing.
anybody.
And so Harvey comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I want to talk to you." And we were all the open. There was 20 open micers, all of us, and he goes, "Look, you're the only guy in this town ready to be on the road." And kids, back
Wow.
then, the only way you found out who booked anything was somebody who thought you were ready, told you who the name was, and they were
Right.
going to sell their reputation on somebody who sucked. And he gave me 5 names. He goes, "Here's 5 names. I'm going to call every one of these people, send them all a tape." And then with him and Tim Wilson, don't know if you knew Tim Wilson
Oh
at all.
yeah, I knew Tim. Rest
Tim
his
and I were
soul.
close. We're in my car and I'm driving him back and forth to the gig. And he goes, what's your act like? What are you doing? I said, "Oh, it's okay." He goes, "No." And I had a cassette of my set and he goes, "I want to hear it right now." So I played it for him. He goes, "I'm calling D'Annunzio." So he got
Nice.
me in the punchlines. So with those 2, by November, I had 7 months booked. So I quit on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really how you got to do it. You've got to set yourself up in advance, and then you can slowly cut ties with wherever you were. But that's such a like. How did you feel doing that?
Were you ready?
Yeah, were you ready?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Well, because MCing paid $400. I could
Back
make
then, yeah, you're right.
15 minutes. I was making coconuts. You could do coconuts had so people, all these new comedians are like, "I hate this nostalgia bull crap that doesn't exist." Coconuts in Florida, he had 12. You could go down there for 2 months,
Is that
make
Bob Shoemaker, right?
$75 a show to open, and work for. I mean, the money wasn't great, but so what? You're still making $350 a week or more. He's got your nights off, and you could MC. The Laugh Stops would fly you to Texas to MC for $450 a week. Have you pick up the car at the airport, pick up the other acts, go to the club, do the week, go back to the airport, fly to the next one, and do that 4 times. So and then as you started doing MC, I was MCing that first year, and I think I made 14, 15,000. But by the second year, you're making 30,000 and you're starting to feature more. But the clubs all used MCs, punchlines, zones, and then you're already featuring doing these one-nighters where you get to do 30 minutes and you get to die because they just need people to do. There's only 2 acts. So
that first like 25-minute opener / middle was a killer spot. That was a lot with the comedy zones with Brad Greenberg.
Yep.
A lot of those weekday shows where he would book you for like 3 weekday shows, overcharge them, and then he would get you for the weekend for free because he paid you out of that overcharge.
You would send him
Brilliant.
the check. And
Yeah,
say,
you sent him a check, exactly.
Send me 500 at the end of the week because you've already collected all of that. Well, that's so funny. I was working with a guy I won't mention because he's still a comic and he's a good guy. And at the time he's featuring, it's one of the last times I ever even worked. And Creative and Zone doesn't even exist anymore. They're East Coast owns them, and the Hef's gone. They're all gone. I think Len is the only one around. But he said, "Hey, go do Rafa, Missouri, and headline." So I go, and the hotel is the grossest. It's a non-smoking room, and there's cigarette butts on the floor.
Right. Oh, very nice.
They paid 19. So I'm not staying there. So I leave. I check in, but I don't even go in the room. I leave. I go to the gig, and some ex-cop owns it. And the first guy goes up to feature, and he is dying so bad. The guy comes up, he goes, "I ain't paying him, so you better be funnier." I said,
great.
I said, "Dude," I said, "you have to pay him. You can't not pay him because I'm collecting all the money." Hef's got me collecting his 120, my 250, and another 350 for Hef. So I go up, fine show, get off the stage. He goes, "All right, I'm just giving you your money, 225. I said, "No, you can't." I said, "First of all, Hef gets 350, he gets 100. I said, "What do you?" "I don't give a crap about anything. That show, it sucked." So I give him his money. I got nothing.
Oh,
and
man.
then I say, "Well, I got to head home." He goes, "What do you mean you're heading home? I got you a hotel." I said, "That hotel is garbage, man. I'm staying there." And he goes, "That hotel." I said, Okay. How about we're going to go to that hotel right now? You're going to stay there. I'm going to stay at your house. How's that sound?" he goes, "Oh yeah, let's go." So we go over to the hotel. He
You know,
walks
give me a
in, he
minute to
goes,
clean up my cigarette butts near my house.
we go to the hotel. He looks at the door. He goes, "I guess you got a point."
Right.
So I leave. Hef wants me to give him 350. I said, "Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding? I didn't even get my money, and you want me to send you that he and you said the kid." I couldn't believe it. I couldn't
Oh
believe it.
man, and that's just the way it was done, and we always tell about like talking to younger comics about that your word of mouth and your I mean your word is your bond, and you and a lot of those deals make these oral agreements, and then you get a guy like that that says I'm not paying you. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to hire a lawyer to get your $200?
Well, and get Hef, and then and you wonder why I didn't really work for the Comedy Zone after that. But
Yeah,
I did. I think I did every once in a while. They would still send me stuff. But how do you get mad at me when so.
right. Yeah, those are crazy times.
But I walked. But they were also still mad at me because about 3 times I walked out of the hotel. I said, "This place is disgusting. I'm not staying."
Yeah.
That's just it comes. There was a time when I would stay in any hole. You know what I
Cats
mean?
are walking around through your room.
I
There's
just wanted to work,
right.
and I still get that a little bit. You still get that. Look, for all the young guys out there and women, you still get that. You love to get a gig. I'm overbooking just because somebody offers you work. You're like, yeah, I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
I got to take every gig that comes. From the days I'm on the phone when my phones are 500 a month because I'm calling 5 times. I don't
Right.
think everybody real before cell phones. Yeah,
Yeah, where you had to pay for the call.
pay for the phone call and you'd stop. So Yoder, John Yoder, still
Oh
alive. Hope
yeah.
he's doing good. Uh, you're driving to a gig 8 hours. You stop every half hour because it says, call me in a half hour. Yeah. So can I get the gig? Call me in 45 minutes. Hang up, drive 45 minutes. Call me in an hour. Call me. You do
Right.
that
Just to
at
get your
every
weeks.
phone. And then you get, okay, this gig pays $90 and write it down. Thanks. The phone call just cost me more
Right.
than the gig I just got.
Why don't I just call you when I get there?
Yeah, but nope, can't do it. Can't do it. Got to call every 2 hours.
Brad, can you contrast that now with the Comedy Road in 2025?
There is no road. MCing is non-existent or free. Features don't exist. There's no full week. You may get $75. 80% of headliners bring their own feature act, unless you're doing with a big act that's doing theaters. And if you're a major headliner, you're doing one night, 2 nights. You're not doing full weeks in the club, and you're getting paid on what they come in the door. It's not. There's not. If I didn't work cruises, and the great thing about that is they need great comics and people who can do the time. There'd be no. I mean, I'd get weekends here and there, and but there's no way I would make enough to make a living. Luckily, I don't need to. At this point, I don't have to work at all. But yeah, no, it just doesn't exist that way
Is
anymore.
that from your
Is
time as an
it
assassin?
internet?
Yes, yes.
You booked all your money and good for you, man.
Why has it changed? Is it the internet? Why is it a different model now? Who's making all the money then?
Nobody's making all the money, but clubs found out that they don't have to. There's a billion people who will go on stage and they don't care that much how funny some of them are. And 30 people show up for a free night showcase and pay. I mean, people will actually pay to go up. So why the hell am I trying to create or make better comedians when I've got now you can look at, Nate Bargatze's trying to kind of do something, but in Nashville, they've got the lab and people can work stuff out. But again, it's all like New York and LA in the 80s. Everything's a showcase club.
Right.
Everything pays $25 or nothing. And then you've got to figure out how to make a living later or get famous. The goal is, get enough stuff online, get a special, get famous enough that you are a draw. When back then, nobody was a draw. You didn't have to be a draw. You just, because people wanted comics and they would give you the whole week. And now clubs don't care if you make a living. They don't care anything about it. They want to draw. YouTube guy is going to fill the room. They don't care if it's stand up or not. But no, I think clubs are doing well with all this because they ain't paying nobody, or it's somebody who's a draw.
Yeah, well, the Dallas Comedy
Can you-
Club works that way, and they make money off of, the door, and they pay out of the door. And, if you can't fill that room, that's on you.
Yeah. Only bigger comics still get a guarantee, but
Yeah.
but I don't think people are now. I know comics, Rob Little, Rob Little,
Yeah.
probably one of the funniest guys in comedy. Still works a ton of comedy clubs, gets paid, okay. All the funny bones. He works the improv, works all these little weekends and stuff, and cruises. But he makes a decent, and he kills, and he is a draw. He's just not a famous draw, or you know what I mean. So,
Right.
but there's 6 weeks of that a year. There used to be 52 weeks of that a year, so you
Yeah.
could slip in. And there used to be a ton. And there's no weeks. I would make my living 50% of the time in weeks of one-nighters, 4 or 5 one-nighters in a row. Now there's one. There are no booker is trying to put together weeks of one-nighters or weeks of shows, because they know they've got 700 guys. They ain't that funny, but the crowd doesn't care that much. and they'll get good people that just want to do a one-nighter. But they're not together. It's just two. Hey, go to Minot, North Dakota or Minnesota. It's $200, no hotel. What? But they'll have 25 people want to do it. So, and the bar for how funny somebody is really low. I think it's really low. It's people laugh. We're back to the days when they'll laugh at a lot of stuff that ain't that strong, so.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Is that the dumbing down of us, or?
Well, because when you see a lot of stuff online, it ain't that damn funny. And it just, because back when I was starting out, if you weren't killing, you were done. You were never coming back.
Well, there was too many guys killing and too many women killing back then.
Well, what was interesting was, and I'm sure people disagree with everything I'm saying, but comics are so much better now. Because when I started in '87, it was still boom, right?
Yeah.
So when early '90s come, suddenly all these guys that have been made back then too, you're a headliner. If you had 45 minutes, you could talk in a row in the '80s. You're making $2,500 a week.
Right.
You weren't that funny. But then all these features, Thea Vidal's coming up, all these features blowing these guys away because they weren't great comics. They just could talk in a row. So come the '90s, 80% of those guys disappeared. Just their show's over. So and now headlining pays $900 for the week, $1,000 for the week, and not $2,500. And I'm like, I'll do that. So now I'm undercutting people to headline.
Right.
And also still taking feature weeks at $500-$600. So it really, that early '90s for me was great.
Yeah, that was rough for some of us.
That's right. Rough for the people who were headlining at $3,000 a week that were struggling. And so I that was my time to hurt people, I guess. And then
I was probably a bit of an undercutter also. I came along in the mid '90s, so I guess now that I look back on it, I was probably an undercutter. I felt like I was making a shit ton of money, but maybe it was less than what the other guys were making that could have done the gig.
And you know somebody pretty good after a long time. My wife doesn't have to make some big gesture. If she wants me to know what she's thinking or her intentions, she'll just sit in that bed and raise her eyes. That's all you need, man. That's it right there. I'll be downstairs making a sandwich. Oh. And I'll sneak up those stairs, sweetie, baby, honey, vanilla beans, stuff like that. And she'll go, oh, sweetie, let's go. Yeah. And then we'll get going. And then she'll do this. She'll go, oh, wait, I forgot something. I forgot. She'll go, hold on. And she'll get up and turn all the lights off. And I was like, oh, I forgot something too. And I'll get up. Turn the lights back on and the disco ball. And I will get back in bed. And she'll go, stop it. And she'll turn the lights off. I go, you stop it. And I'll turn it back on. She'll go, she'll turn them off. And I go, blah, and I'll turn them back on. Finally, I got mad. And I said, honey, this is silly. And I don't get mad, but I did. I said, I love you. I love you. And I've tried to show you I love you for 20 years. Are you not seeing it? And I've seen you. I have seen all of you in every way, and I love every bit of it. Stop being ashamed of your body. That's when I found out the truth. It was my body she was ashamed of.
Yeah. And by 2002, my daughter's born. I get a chance to get on Carnival and work 8 days a month, 3 days on, 10 days off, 3 days,
Yeah.
and still make 45 a year. Still
Right.
not even only down by like 20,000. My wife's working. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So
Right. You're making more than a teacher.
I was making more than a regular teacher, just working 8 and being home 90% of the time.
Yeah. Being the stay-at-home dad, which is like critical when you have little kids.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it was, and that was great all the way until, well, then in 2006, they offered me like my own ship. Back then, they would have a cruise director go, just work my ship. So I did 4 years, 5 days on, 10 days off on one ship, just doing that.
Wow.
It was the greatest time in history.
Yeah, I'll
And
bet.
well, as far as money though, now it's, because I make double that and I'm booked a year
Yeah,
and a half
but at the
ahead.
time though,
At the time, it was, well, because I was home.
bread was a
Now it's
nickel.
like, what?
I said bread was a nickel back
Bread
then.
was a dime, and I was driving. And so I did that until 2010 and just loved it. But then I made a huge mistake. I took that show in Vegas and was gone 7 months. And that was when my daughter was like 12. And that was horrible for
That's
all of us.
tough.
Poor. Because you thought, they're like, yeah, it's going to be, yeah, we can be, maybe get this big thing going. And then I just hated it so much doing it that after 7 months, I was like, I'm going to quit. I can't do
Hey
it.
kid, it's me, it's daddy. And they're like, remind me?
Yeah. Although they loved coming out, man. They would come out. I got 2 hotel rooms at the hotel. Part of my deal was I had to have a hotel room. And then, so I had a connecting hotel rooms and they would come out about once a month and we would just do everything. So
Right.
that part they loved, but
Yeah, kids love Vegas.
it was just hard. Yeah, hookers. It was fantastic. We're not
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's get those kid hookers.
my daughter was 12, gambling, a lot of gambling. So, but no, there's a lot of kids shows out. Matt
No,
King
for sure. Yeah.
ruined Matt King's show one day. That was great. And I said, thanks for giving us the tickets, Mac, and putting my daughter on stage and have her destroy your bit.
No, did she pooch his bit?
she she was my daughter, very precocious, and so we had gone out for Matt King does a derby party every year, so we went out for his Kentucky Derby party, and his show was like an hour after mine. So I'm doing my show, my family goes to his show, and he brings my daughter on stage for a bit with a tent, and she's standing on stage with her legs spread real wide, and he's like, "What are you doing?" She goes, I know there's a trap door here somewhere. I am not. Oh, yeah. No. So then he's doing the bit, and the bit is there's a tent, and she's supposed to look in the tent, and she goes, there's a bear in that tent. I know it. I can feel it. And there was a bear in the tent. Well, bear.
Was there a bear?
Yeah, she didn't even see it. She just knew it. She could read the trick before the trick happened.
That's funny.
She goes, no, bear's jumping out of that tent. I know it. I can feel it. And he goes, how would you think a bear? And then it was a bear.
Fair enough. The worst nightmare.
Yeah, Matt came up to me. He goes, yeah, thanks, buddy. Thanks for, I said, hey, you brought her
Hey,
on
be
stage.
better at picking kids.
You didn't have to bring her on stage. I
Right?
just asked for the free tickets. So
I would never
and
ask a
Louis-
comedian's kid to be my volunteer. No way.
So and Louis Anderson was my best buddy then. So he had a show. We were produced by the same people, and if I needed anybody into town and I needed to meet somebody famous, Louis was right there to meet and greet them and act like they were cool. And
Right.
I'd go do his show with him sometimes, and so that was super cool. So
Yeah, that's always nice when you meet someone who you idolize and they turn out to be a decent guy.
yeah, I missed that guy. So and
Yeah, a lot of us do.
when Rocky told me before he died, I was always scared to ask him to do my show. And I just, and then Rocky Laporte came on right after he died. And he said, yeah, Louis was wondering if you should never ask him to do your show.
Is it me? Why won't he ask?
Yeah, no, I just no, I don't think it was that big a deal. It was just like, yeah, he never asked me to do that show. So
That's funny.
he had him on his show and stuff like that. So, but then there's people you ask that just blow you the hell off that you think you've known even better. You're like, oh, I thought I knew that person is
Yeah.
not
Well,
famous.
it's a rough show to do as a comedian. You're used to doing that like that COVID style online comedy, and it threw me off, man.
You weren't thrown off. You did good.
Well, I just did my material, but I felt like I was auditioning for a comedy GM in his office.
Oh,
You
that's so
know,
funny. You were
right?
getting laughs. I don't know what's wrong. You were getting people were laughing and
Maybe I couldn't hear it. Yeah, because I felt like I probably when if I watched it afterwards
yeah, go back and look at it
I'll go
because
back.
they were laughing and well and and some of our a couple of our good laughers weren't there. We have a couple
Ah,
people that
see,
laugh really
that's
loud.
what I need. I need someone like that. What's the old
Yeah,
joke? You run around the room and make it seem like there's more of you.
yeah. Well, that's right. And I'm so used to it that I just
Yeah, you're I was going to ask you about that. That style of comedy is really like particular, and you excel at it, and it's the kind of comedy where you write out a monologue, but you're delivering it as you're reading it, but it doesn't seem like you're reading, like a talk show host. And so how did you develop that style, and is that what you typically do, or is that just for that show
just that show. Yeah, no, although I jokes that work, I slip into my regular set
on the
somehow
ship?
on the ship. I've been doing a new thing on Carnival where I add them all in a row, and I even because on Carnival I still use the ukulele in the show, so I've got a thing where I'm playing a song and doing jokes and stuff like that.
Nice.
But now sometimes it's good. I do a big thing on ships about getting fired all the time and how people are offended by unlike clubs, people just are always complaining that they're offended about something. So I do a long series of jokes that people were offended by, and so that really does well. But no, for this, yeah, no, because I knew I've been doing virtual stuff. It wasn't called virtual since 2005.
Oh,
So,
wow. Way
well,
before COVID.
I have a book out called Don't Feed the Bully, and I worked with school safety specialists. I got a master's in counseling, and I wrote a detective novel on bullying for kids in fifth and sixth, seventh grade. So my wife's in education, so the biggest thing was video conferencing in schools. So Cisco systems, there was no Zoom back then, stuff like that. But these big companies were making these video conferencing units that were big cameras. They were $10,000, $12,000, these units. And so these school services were starting to put programs together for schools where I would be in a studio in front of the camera, in front of an entire classroom,
Yeah.
talking about, and then I don't have to drive because I'm driving all over the country to go to schools. And what I would do is I would be at stand-up gigs and I would take towns and I would contact the school, say, hey, do you want, I won't make it expensive if you want to talk about bullying. And I've been doing that since I had a character ed book in 2000. So now all these schools want to do this thing. So I'm already attuned to it. And then Cisco Systems gave me this $10,000 system
Wow.
that I had in my house that was, I mean, Zoom is great, but this was like I had total control of the camera, but it was hard. So I was already doing it. So when COVID started, I had a $10,000 system. We were up like that because I had already been doing it. And I had already been doing stand up for companies and corporations and stuff via video conference. So
Jeez.
the week
That's
it started, I got my buddy Steve ready to go and hooked up. And I had already kind of gotten the idea when you're doing stand up online, it's got to be slower. The jokes have to be broad and and that got me into thinking now I'm going to do these monologues and it has to be written new every week anyway. So I'm just going to write,
right.
25 jokes a week and do, 12 of the ones that probably suck too. But, again, here's another tip, kids. You write 1,000 jokes to get 5. is what
Yeah,
happens.
talk
So,
about that for a second, because like I said earlier in the show, you're a prolific writer, and by that I mean you write a shit ton of material, man, and you're very smooth about delivering things that are obviously very new because they're about something that happened that day or that week. So talk about what it takes to create a monologue like that.
well, that's it, because 90% of it doesn't work that well, but if you give it your all, they don't care in a way. It's,
Yeah, you kind of sell your personality half
it's
the time.
it's the Johnny Carson method.
Yeah,
Half his stuff was just freaking horrible. But so in every monologue, I may have out of 15, 12, 13, 14 jokes, I may have four that I feel are well written, funny jokes. I do a joke about, and I still do it, even though it's 100 years old. It's not 100 years. It's about the Winter Olympics. And if you think about the structure of a joke, the Finnish skier for the Winter Olympics, the cross country skier got frozen penis. I don't know if you knew that. It's a real thing. It's super painful, frozen penis.
yeah,
And some people don't believe it's real till they touch their tongue to it and it sticks. So so it just, if I can come up with things that just have that good punch, good twist, short,
right,
quick, but it's so hard to come up with strong ones. So you've just got to write 40 of them and try to think of, and then what I hate though is when I come up with something that's mediocre and then like Steve will say the exact right punchline instead, just out of like, I'm like, that's why you need to have people write with you.
yeah,
But you just got to do it. You got to write, and I should do more, but I don't have that kind of time and I'm lazy. But you spend 2, 3, 4 hours just putting out jokes. Now that's different than writing Jeff Shaw. Do you know Jeff?
yeah. I know Jeff.
Jeff will spend 5 hours a day writing the Seinfeld way, long form bits. Now, I'll do every show. The first page is kind of a long form. I can't remember what I did this week. Kind of a long form thing with less punchliney stuff. That's just kind of something going on before I get to the jokes. And some of that ends up being in the act because it's
Yeah,
just good premises. But that's the kind of stuff Jeff writes, long form, just pages and pages and pages that he kind of whittles down. And but he's got more guts than any comic I've ever seen in my life.
right.
He came and featured for me a few years ago. He said it's a gig he headlines, and he goes, "Hey, I'll come open for you." He goes, "But I'm going to do 30 minutes of all new stuff."
Oh, that's a good deal.
Bar gig, 30 minutes of all new stuff. I'm standing with the owner, and he does 30 minutes of all new stuff, and just there's not really laughs because you can see it's coming, that it's clever, but I can't, man, I bail in a second. Something doesn't work, I go right to something that works.
Right,
Maybe slipping, but he and the owner and I are like, that son of a bitch has got the biggest balls in history to be in front of this quarter biker crowd doing PG all
right.
new. And then the last 5 minutes, he kind of broke out of it and did some regular stuff and got some laughs just so I wouldn't walk up to a hole. But man, we're
Wow.
like, you can't respect that more because and just one of the greatest, thinkers and just toying away. I don't worry about every word in longer bits. Some guys worry about every word. Like on stage, it's always different. I always do it. Some guys get that bit down, they do it the same way every time. I'm always in flux with how and trying to find new things and dump other things in old bits. But for the monologue, yeah, joke after joke after joke after joke, setup, premise, punch, setup, premise, punch. Can't be too long. Can't be nothing's a minute. Yeah.
Well, would you tell a young comic to work on their monologue jokes? Like, say they want to become a writer for whatever, Colbert. What kind of process would you tell them? Or give us steps? How do you can't
Well, you
just
got
sit
well,
down and write.
the steps are well, just like going on stage. People who take comedy classes, I'm sure they're great. And people, I took a comedy class. I can't see it. I can't get you go on stage, you die, and you start writing, jokes. Everything needs a punchline. That's what I tell everybody. Where's the punchline in this? You You just told a sweet story about your trauma. Where's the punchline? You know, guys, a friend of mine, I got her on cruises. I won't say who it is. Lovely, lovely woman. Perfect for cruises. Mid-50s woman, very attractive. They're dying for this. She got work immediately, but her show was about her trauma and her journey through sobriety.
Oh boy.
And there's no punchlines. You know what I mean? And in LA, it's great. Hey, I'm telling you, you're in LA, they love it. You go up at Flappers or Snappers or Crap or Bappers, and you talk about your trauma. And if there's a pithy something in there, great. And I have a ton of respect for it. But when you walk in front of 900 people on a cruise, they want to hear punchlines. You know what I mean? And they want to hear they're not there to learn or grow or
No, that's what I found. Jeff Shaw, speaking of Jeff, the fun dude Shaw, he was the one that came up to me at a Hilarities in Cleveland, and he said, this was at a time when I had moved from LA back to Cleveland, and he was like, "Hey man, have you thought of doing the cruise ships?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I did one stretch for a 3-week stretch for Norwegian Cruise Line, and I just died an awful death." I said, "I'll never do that again." And he goes, "Oh, but this is Carnival Cruise Line." He goes, "It's a whole different thing. They've got this. This is when they were doing the Punchliner, I think,
yeah.
or
Yeah, they are still doing it.
yeah, they're still doing that. Yeah." And he's like, it's like a real comedy club, and he's like, they really respect the comedians, and he got me back on the ships, and I spent, I think, almost 4 or 5 years doing those. And
What years was that?
that was in, let's see, 2000 and maybe 9 through 2014.
Well, the
13.
Punchliner started in October of 2010.
Then it was 2010 then, because it was definitely I wasn't there before the Punchliners.
So you were there when Chris was still there. He got fired, and you were there for another couple of years.
Yeah, then was booking it
Carlo.
was
Dave Carlo came.
David. Sorry, it was David when he was booking.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. And then I got let go because I had a couple of bad shows, but the 2 bad shows I had were listed under Mike Lucas, and all my good shows were under Mike Lukas, which is how I spell my name.
Yeah.
And so Jeff Shaw told me later, he said they made a mistake. They thought you only did bad shows because they looked under the wrong name.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so he asked
Come
if I
on
wanted.
back.
That's what he said. He goes, "Do you want to come back?" And I was like, "Ah, man, that was when I did some of my biggest drinking when I was alone on a ship." And but what I would always say about the ships is they were different than what I thought they would be. Is on a ship you can work on some material. You have so much time that you have to cover that it really forces your muscles to grow. And then if you can combine that with club work, you can use the 2 of those together to build up quite a relationship with your fans.
If you want to work a little.
What's funny is I would do it once I took 10 years off, so I had a lot of rust going on, and so I'm now working it off, and I'm almost back to full gear again, and it's really kind of fun. But
You need
in order
3
to do
different
it,
shows.
you need what you need? How many shows?
You have to have supposedly. Well, some
Wasn't
guys
it 3
kinda don't.
half-hour shows?
You have to have 3 different half hours, 2 adult, 1 family.
Yeah.
But it's best to have a little more than that. I do 5, and then sometimes you walk in and they're like, you're going to need to do 5. Because a lot of people, well, what happens is you walk on the ship and you only have 3 different shows, and you do 2 PG shows. Now, if they're back to back, big deal, great, do the same show. But if you do a PG show on Tuesday and your next PG show is until Thursday,
they're coming back.
Everybody's coming back.
They're coming back. We loved you.
They're going to stare at you. I can't do it. I gotta do whatever I can to do a different show. So guys sweat a lot, and a lot of guys, and I always say guys, I mean women and men.
Of course. Yeah.
When I say guys are everybody to me.
Yeah. Plenty of women work
guys are binary. A lot of guys, and a lot of guys have no PG. talk to the crowd the whole time. The
Mm.
hotel directors on the last ship I was on would go, they watched both my PGs and said, well, you just did an hour of actual material. I said, well, yeah, I can't. What do you do for a living? That's stupid. What do you wear? That's stupid.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about? Because I don't have a show. So a lot of guys sweat it out. So go in and
Yeah.
sweat it out. What the hell?
Well, I'm gonna eventually move towards that, and if I can stomach getting on the ships again, and I'm a little claustrophobic, and I'm a little bit motion sickness, so
Then you're in trouble on
yeah,
Carnival.
because the carnivals they typically have you they house you with the other crew,
Yeah,
so you're
you're in
down below deck.
you're in a
Now, one time
small
they put
crew
me up
cabin.
above deck towards the front, and I got sick. I had to wear one of those patches, those
Yeah,
they look like nicotine patches, but they're
yeah,
for seasickness.
yeah. May not be for you then, because
Right.
Carnival's that way. Now the other cruise lines is different. Like I'm a passenger on Celebrity, so I get an outside cabin suite and stuff, and other ones that are that too, like Oceana, Regent. Those are all you're all
And
passengers.
do you ever take your wife with you?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's 5, 6 times a year now. We used to, back when my daughter was little, we would spend a month on the ship, like all of July. I'd be doing all 4 cruises, and they would just come from July 1 to July 31st or whatever it was. And
Fun.
then one year we had my family come the first cruise. We stayed for 2 more, and then her family came the last one. So we did that a couple of years. And then now, matter of fact, we're all doing, my daughter, my brother, my nephew, and my wife, we're all doing one in March. And then
Nice.
Celebrity is free. She just comes free. I say, hey, my wife's coming. Okay. And
Wow.
there she is. They love it. They bring your wife. Why? Because we spend about 900. That's why if I'm there alone, it's just me paying, tips or whatever. My wife's there. Where the bill's like 950 at the end of the day. They're like, no,
Right.
bring the
Come on
wife.
in. We'll make
Yeah.
some of our money back.
I get there and her name's already on there. Well, she's not coming. Oh man, we thought maybe she would.
Where is the gambler? I mean, your wife.
Yeah, no. Well, no, we don't. Yeah, gamble. And that's not even gambling because we don't gamble.
Where's the
Well,
shopper? Where's the
yeah.
restaurateur? Well, one of the things we ask before we gotta let
Oh,
you go here is, well, Chris, why don't you go ahead and ask him our
Chris.
famous question?
Ooh.
Yeah, we're always looking for advice for young comics writing new material. And so the question is, if you have 1 hour a night to work on your comedy, that's not on stage, that's writing time.
Yeah.
What drills, techniques, tactics, free writing examples? What's basically the equivalent of doing 100 push-ups a night, but for your
Ah,
comedy chest?
drills. I like drill. Well, first I write the word potato 100 times. No. Uh, well, that's such a weird thing to think about for comics, because so many comics, that's not how it works at all. You just think of premises, write them down, and put little punchlines and take them on stage. But as far as that kind of writing, you want to start with, what are you going to write about? What's your, who are you on stage? Which has changed for me over the years too, because most of my act isn't jokes like I do in the monologue. There are jokes in there, and I've added ones that are apropos from my sitting and writing. But when I just sit and write, yeah, I just write jokes. I find premises, things that I like, and I start thinking, what direction is this going to go that's going to be funny and has punchlines involved? That's the overriding thing. What is the punchline? Where are they going to laugh when you write this stuff down? That over anything else, where are they going to laugh? And I think Seinfeld is of that, camp too. So, and if you're only going to spend an hour, be prepared for the hour. What have you been thinking of during the day, and taking notes on where do you want to start? And then sometimes you can just start writing things out, your thoughts, and, in story form, but you got to know that ain't going to work on stage ever. No.
Where's the punch?
Yeah, where's the punchline? Because you got a page of writing that's a page, even if it's double spaced. And okay, where are they laughing? I'm not sure where that is. Oh, that's a cute thought. That's a cute. No, where are they laughing? So that's the most important thing. So, but other than that,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have no real advice because I don't know what I'm doing.
What about monologue writing? Like when you read the news, you read a news story or whatever about
Oh yeah,
plane
monologue. Yeah, monologue. You get the world's your oyster. I'd go through hundreds of stories looking for something where I'm like, I got a good twist there. Like let's look at crap. I want to look at one that's killing on stage right now. Think of this. I do it on stage now. Is Cracker Barrel? Did you know this? Cracker Barrel does a thing for Valentine's Day where if you get married at if you get engaged at Cracker Barrel, you videotape it, and then you put it on Instagram, and you can win free food for a year. So you get engaged, videotape it, put it on Instagram, hashtag still first cousins. So, so I find out Cracker Barrel's doing that. It easily leads to inbreeding.
Right.
Uh, I love animal jokes too. I love any story about dogs, cats, llamas, bears. I've done about 300 cocaine bear jokes. Anytime I see them seize cocaine, a bear is going to appear in that joke somehow. Just,
He's going to be a coked up bear.
a coked up bear. Well, and then, this one that's killing. I don't know why this is killing, but anything about, for some reason, I just love a woman tried to smuggle in 6 giant African snails into the United States. And these are all true, which is fun. So she gets caught trying to smuggle in these 6 giant African snails at the border. And she made a big mistake because when they were found, she just yelled, "Run!" Just
There we go.
and for some reason that kills, but it just because obviously you think about snails, and I immediately think, okay, we gotta have a slow joke,
Right.
something that's
Of course. Or a salt joke.
or a salt joke or something like that. So that's the great thing about the monologues.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of easier than writing, bits for the act. I have a whole new bit about sex as you're getting older. That's now turned into 5 minutes. That started as just, one line about putting on a
cocaine bear.
cocaine bear, putting on a knee brace and a truss. And but
Trust.
those things take so much more time to get to the jokes and get it up to 5 minutes because the punchlines, again, when you're thinking about it, it takes so much to build that piece of 5 minutes where you can sit down and just look at the news and go through 100 things and
Right.
you'll get 10 or 12 things that you think of a joke for, pretty quick. If you're going to do that kind of joke, and again, I'm going to say it for the 42nd time, have a punchline.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the premise is funny. It's kind of funny that there was a study about women who break up with men with small penises. That's already funny. It's a premise.
Right. But it's not the punchline.
But what's your punchline that's going to jump way over that and be even funnier? And then, of course, my punchline is they found out he's just not that far into you. But so there you go. Right.
Right.
So does that answer? Am I answering any
Yeah,
question?
you answered it wonderfully. Thank you, and thanks for all your insights, man. I was hoping that we could pick your brain, and we did. And thank you for your time and everything. And before we get going, would you want to plug anything? Anything that you want to?
I just signed a deal with the Jingo Network. I haven't signed it yet. The Jingo Network?
What's the Jingo Network?
It's on Roku and all platforms. It's a new streaming service.
Oh, good.
I haven't signed it. I've got I was going to print it out, but I used the same plug for my printer and my microphone. So I just got a thing. I think it's Roseanne Barr's son. But
okay.
They want they're doing a new comedy network channel shows. At first, they were thinking about running the virtual comedy show, but that's too big a deal to get done. So they're going to take like I have 4,000 jokes,
Yeah.
and they can just keep running, putting them up, and they're doing a streaming channel, and you can just pick. So that's
great.
So
Congratulations.
look for it, the Jingo Network, Jingo.
Jingo.
Yeah, Jingo
Cool.
is his name.
And plug your virtual comedy show too.
virtual comedy show every Monday night We do an hour of comedy. Me, Steve Goody. There's lots of songs, funny songs, monologues, jokes. Patty Vasquez is there every week, doing a melt about something she's mad about. We're a little left wingy, so if you're on the Trump side, you're probably not going to enjoy the show very much. Some of it. I mean, most of my jokes aren't. I do maybe one. This week, I think I did a couple extra things, but mostly I don't do that. So there's that. And of course, again, let's go back to this. You can go to Amazon.com. I've got a bunch of books out, but one of the main ones, if you're a comedian, Hell Gig and Lightening the Road comic. It's all about what the road was truly like in the 90s, on the road full time, the pathos, the sadness, how hard it is, and writing. There's a lot about writing in it. There's a lot about jokes, a lot about dying, a lot about, just those travels, and it's worth reading.
Great.
All right, man.
All right, buddy. Hey,
Fantastic.
thank you, Brad. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. Have a great day. Thanks,
too,
Chris.
brother.
Bye.
ya.
Yay. Boop, boop.